You're watching Fox 17 News, Nashville in Focus.
Happy Sunday morning, everybody. I'm Scott Couch. Welcome to the show. 2 Democrats, 2 Republicans, all the issues on the state and local level that you can shake a stick at in 30 seconds. That's what we're going to do, or 30 minutes, I should say. That's what we're going to do here for the next little bit. Let me introduce everybody, and we will wade in. Jasper Hendricks, Democratic strategist, chair of the Metro Fair Board. Glad to have you, sir. Steve Gill beside him, local attorney, also publisher of TriStarDaily.com, and a conservative television and radio host. Always good to see you. Tori Venable back with us, Tennessee Director of Americans for Prosperity, and Jim Shulman, former Nashville Vice Mayor, all-around good egg, and Dean of the Business School
at Cumberland University
in Lebanon, Tennessee.
That's right.
Glad to have you back.
I just wanted to point out Tori's hair, how nice it looks. It's a Valentine's thing.
She is doing her part for the color red.
And I want to give kudos to Jim as we start. I never lost power when he was in government. I never lost power.
How about that? See, the whole time you were there, you never lost power. You leave public office.
I leave public office, and how long did you lose it for?
A week.
I had 6 days.
Okay.
0 days.
I was talking
Fair
to
I have NES, but I got lucky and we maintained power.
One quick story that'll probably be cut. We'll have to redo this. So when I was doing radio years ago, we had an ice storm, and I made some joke on the air because somebody called and complained about their roads being iced. I said, well, in Belmead and Brentwood, they have the heated roads, so they never have any problems. And people were calling, going ballistic, thinking I was serious, and it went on for about 30 minutes till people kind of finally figured it. They didn't have.
I love
roads.
The joke. No, they don't have heated roads out there.
They do not.
Right, guys. Let's talk about something that made news up the state capitol this week. I guess discussion about the governor's budget. It's been introduced in the House now, so it's on the floor there. $57.9 million, or just under 58 billion. It includes another 155 million to double the number of education freedom scholarships. A lot of people refer to it as vouchers. I know you're very favorable to that, Tori. And there's a comment that came from J.C. Bowman and his group, Professional Educators Tennessee. They're not necessarily against it, but they want some measurement and stuff. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about you really like school choice. What are your thoughts about the people who want some kind of accountability? I want to know where my money's going. I want to know what kind of grades those kids are getting, that sort of thing. What do you think?
Well, let's start first and say that transparency is for the government and privacy is for the people. And as long as we keep that in mind, I think we can actually craft a framework that's going to work for everyone. But when we're talking about accountability, we want to make sure that the accountability is not going to drag down the private schools or dismantle the school choice program. We know what has been working and why parents are choosing alternative education options. So we want to make sure that they have those options and we are not changing the curriculum or dictating curriculum in private schools, and that we are not dictating what tests the private schools have to take. If anything, we should be giving more options to the public schools and letting them take other national norm tests and not the TCAP. We do not want to teach to the test. That does not work. Parents do not like that. The grassroots does not like that. That is the kind of accountability that we really want to see.
All right, Jim, you've been biting at the bit. Take it.
I was just talking about, but it's accountability of how the money is spent. Right. So this program, the school voucher program, is fairly new. Mm-hmm. I mean, last year I think was the first year that actually did. Right. So where are the measurements? I mean, you start putting out this program in the first year. Do we have enough measurements? Is there information out there that says this program is actually working the way that anybody wants to? Why would you double the money in the second year until you really have the thing to measure and the accountability after the first year?
Well, every single one of those scholarships, the first 20,000 scholarships, was taken. And 56,000 families applied this year for the scholarship. So, I mean, that's absolutely something that we should be looking at. And it's $7,300 for each family that applied for the scholarship. That's where the money is going, is for their tuition towards the education of their choice. And who best suited than the parent to make the decision for their own family?
That's what leadership is saying.
I think Jasper's ready to get in.
Well, I was just going to say that we have, first of all, $7,300 per student, and we're not even spending that much. The state doesn't spend that much for Davidson County per pupil. It's around $4,000. So there will be a discrepancy there when this new budget. That's what it's going to boil down to. And then when we talk about accountability, there's already been programs that I think everybody here keeps forgetting. that Davidson County, Shelby County, Hamilton County already had sort of voucher programs, these makeshift programs that were put in place, and we don't even know how those kids actually
just applied to those two counties in low-performing schools, so parents could maybe do something else.
But it hasn't proven to be successful.
We don't know.
We don't know, right? And there's a transparency. So for we to say, and if we're talking about transparency, also we say how is the money being spent? We're going to tell people that you're going to receive SNAP benefits. You can't receive sugary drinks. You can't do this. You can't do that with the SNAP money. Are kids getting sugary drinks at these schools? Are they buying it? Are they
using a minute left. I want to let
for that? Like, how can you have
apple before I head to break?
Well, I hate to disagree with my friend Tori, but the fact that people are taking the scholarships doesn't mean it's successful. People love free money. Just ask the Somali healthcare workers in Minnesota. People will take free stuff, and we can always have more people wanting free stuff. And I would say that Jasper's right. We are not seeing academic achievement. We're seeing people want the free money, but we are not seeing test scores improve in Memphis or Nashville, the other places we tested it first. And it is not violating people's privacy to say we ought to know what percentage of the kids getting this were already in private schools before we gave them the money. It's not moving people from public schools to private schools. It's paying people whose kids are already in private schools.
We've got to squeeze in a break right here. Stay tuned. You're watching Nashville in Focus, and we'll be right back.
No one ever said.
You're watching Fox 17 News, Nashville in Focus.
Since we had such widespread agreement on our last topic, I want to introduce something that may be a little controversial, and that's the 10 Commandment Bill. It passed the full Tennessee House a couple of days ago by a vote of 65-25. I listened to the entire full floor debate. Steve, you get the first bite at the apple since you were last time. Will this, I guess, hold up to the equal protection provision of the Constitution? And this is, just so you know how this bill is different, it allows schools, not requires them, to display the 10 Commandments along with other historical documents, and you're one of two attorneys on the panel, so I want to get both of you.
I'm going to yield to the constitutional expert mainly on this one because making it permissive rather than required does change the tenor. But if you're not allowed to impose something, allowing the school to impose it doesn't really change the questions, I think, of constitutionality. So I think that it is going to have some constitutional challenges. But at the same time, if you have other opportunities to share other religious values, faith, and other things that are taking place, then I think it's going to be hard-pressed to stop a school from deciding they want to post that.
Yeah, and I don't know how many schools are going to take this on because they don't want to fool with it.
Well, and maybe that's it. And there's a lot of issues going on in the state, in the country, affordability. We have all these things going on. Why are we doing this? It's like separation of church and state.
There was only a letter. It was not policy. It was a letter to the Danbury Baptist Church. It is not enshrined in our documents.
Well, I watched that Constitution. We've had this before. You keep religion out of government, and we've always taken that fact that people can practice whatever religions they want. That's what we have in this country. Read the First Amendment. We don't have a set religion, but people can practice the religion they want. But don't try to keep pushing it into the school system. That's not where it's supposed to be. We keep that separate, and the Supreme Court has ruled on this. And to me, it's one of those things where, why do we keep doing this, and then we're going to have a fight over it in courts because we're going to do it.
We can't have the 10 Commandments because our teachers are too busy having to pursue the doxology of anti-ICE and anti-law enforcement and set up protests by their young students.
We'll keep on the subject. What I'm concerned about is we've got other issues to deal with. Why do we keep going back and playing with the same issues? We've seen this before. Let's focus on the issues that really matter.
I just wonder if the legal challenge will come after they pass the law, or if it will wait to see if anybody actually takes advantage of being able to.
See, I think the legal challenges will come when if a school allows, which is why I think schools are not going to touch this, like they're not touching the whole teachers being able to carry guns in classrooms. They don't want to fool with it. It's an insurance liability. It's a liability. So if you have if you have people that want to display the 10 Commandments, are they also going to display the historical documents from other religions, from from Islam, but this is with other historical documents.
Well, and
so that's where that's what
specifically he was talking about the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, the Tennessee Constitution. Those are the ones that were discussed on the House floor.
Yeah, and so but you're going to say, but they discussed it.
Yeah.
But it's not in the bill. It's not in the legislation.
No, it just said
the
on
legislation
the
doesn't define it as that.
Yeah.
And so, and that's where you're going to have the legal challenges because they don't have. There's no clear intent in the legislation. So yeah, so you can get on the floor of the House and talk about, oh well, yeah, I'm talking about this, but if the legislation doesn't speak to that, then you're going to have people that's going to say, hey, well, I want to display, it's Ramadan, and this is what's important to a certain segment of the population of the school system, right?
I will tell you this, I've got a teenage son, and I don't care what you put in the hallway, he's walking right on by.
Well, I think that there's plenty of things being displayed in the public school systems that most parents don't agree with right now as it is. And if we're talking about the 10 Commandments, that's not really that controversial if you're thinking about what the 10 Commandments actually are. We're talking about freedom of religion, not freedom from religion. So I guess we'll see how the courts decide.
And it's also interesting, these people that are talking about putting the 10 Commandments in, sort of the ones that are breaking the commandments. So
why don't we deal with the issues? Why are we back to this thing again?
I mean,
why do
we haven't
keep
dealt
going back
with the issues of gay pride flags or anything else in our classrooms either.
Well, I want to.
There's some bills dealing with some of that are before lawmakers right now.
I want to deal with the issues
not
that
on
are
the list
important
today.
to people.
One of my friends
School
pointed out
choice is
that-
important. Let's
I
get
want
back to
deal with
that one. Let's talk
I want to deal
about
with
it.
affordability. That's
We
what
had a
I
whole
wanna
big
deal with.
segment on
One
that.
of my friends pointed out that if we think posting 10 Commandments in the school will get students to adhere to them, we need to post one in the legislature
Yes.
so they'd start following.
Oh,
Yes.
no, that's not a bad idea.
yes, absolutely.
That's not on the sheet of paper.
Let's take up something and see how far we can get on it. And Jasper, we'll start with you. The Tennessee Supreme Court heard arguments just this week on the thing we've been talking about for a couple of years now. Should the council size be capped at 20? How do you think that one's going to go down? I heard the arguments, the same arguments we've been hearing for 2 years, but now we've finally got it before the state's highest court.
Yeah, I think they're going to side with the state legislature, and they're going to cut the size of the council down.
I do too.
I think they will because Nashville is, frankly, we have the third largest city council in the nation.
Country.
Only New York and Chicago have a larger city council.
And they're not much bigger than us, are they?
Well, we are 38th population as compared to New York and Chicago.
I was just carrying on.
So, I think it makes sense. And it also would apply to any metro government. So as Memphis looks at potentially becoming a metro government, it would not affect the home rule because it would be any metro government.
I've got just a couple seconds. Go
Yeah,
ahead, Jim.
this was a decision for the voters of Davidson County. Always should have been. It's their government. They should decide.
Do you think the state's highest court's going to agree with that, or as Jasper
I'm
said?
surprised they heard the case, but
Yeah.
I think they will probably decide to reduce the size of the
Based on what I've read of the Constitution, I'm not an attorney, but that's the way I read it.
Yeah, the cities and municipalities are overseen by the state, and this is an example of the state having the authority to dictate that number, and that's what's going to happen.
Let's squeeze in a commercial break. You're watching Nashville in Focus, and we will be right back.
You're watching Fox 17 News, Nashville in Focus.
I go back in Middle Tennessee in the news business about 4 decades. I've seen the Nashville Electric Service take some heat because of poor response to storms before. Never anything like this. And Jim, we'll start with you. The council had a couple of standing committees, called the leadership before them, and really took them to task. Now there is a resolution calling for the NES Power Board, and you know how it works if you're in government. Your thoughts on the pressure, the creation, I guess the current composition of the board and how it works, and if that's how it should work?
Look, this was such a major storm, such a major thing, and in many ways we all got caught. We got caught off guard. I mean, I remember that Saturday night before the ice storm. I was outside and I thought, "Where's the 2 feet of snow?" And people were sitting there going, "Yeah," laughing and all the other stuff and making fun. And the next thing I know, I'm without power for 6 days. So, unbelievable storm. We need to go back, and I appreciate the council and everybody. NES is doing it. The mayor's called for a review. Go back and review all this stuff and try to figure out what happened. Okay, from the get-go, from the beginning, from the weather forecast all the way through to the tree trimming. Go back and take a solid look at this before we all start
Fire this one, fire that
before
one.
we start going like, let's fire this person or this person needs to be let go or whatever, let's go back and figure out what happened first.
Now, one thing is impossible to argue with, though. The ice was forecast. This wasn't a surprise on Friday night. I'm here every night, folks, and I'm paying some level of attention to the weather. And it's impossible to ignore that the Middle Tennessee Electric, just over a neighboring borough in Wilson County, they had 150 or 80 more people on it the very first day that it hit than NES did. And it's like, I'm bigger, but you're mightier. What's wrong with that picture? You're shaking your head. You didn't lose power at all.
I didn't lose power at all, but I happen to be an NES customer.
Me too.
I live in Rutherford County now. I'm an NES customer. I got lucky and that I didn't lose power, but people want heads to roll. People want accountability. That's the accountability that people want to see. I've known many people that were without power for days on end, 10 days plus. Many people that have lost a lot of with their businesses, and have been out of their homes and have been in hotels if they were lucky enough to be in hotels. And, the fact that they cut back on the tree trimming and spent that money on public relations instead is quite appalling to me as a Nashvilleian, that's the choice that they made, to spend $10 million on public relations and not on trimming the trees.
I'm getting ready to say something, but as a council member, I remember getting calls from people who loved their trees and would wrap their arms around the trees to protect them from NES.
Yeah.
Fair. I love trees too, but if we know a major ice storm is coming and you're going to lose when we know that's coming, it's time to cut some trees over the power lines. You got to do all that
before. Let me ask this, and this is a related thing. Jasper, are you comfortable with the composition of the NES Power Board? These folks don't get paid. They don't necessarily have any special knowledge of or engineering of electricity, yet they're governing what's really a really large utility.
Well, they're not doing the day-to-day work. They're responsible for hiring the person.
Well, it's kind of like a
to
metro
do
council.
the work. It's just like being the fair board.
Yeah.
Before I joined the fair board, because I remember going to the fairs, growing up as a child, and I was that was a happy childhood, for me, and then all the other activities, racing, all of that I enjoyed with my father. It wasn't that I'm not an expert on how to run a fair. My role is to offer my expertise, in helping, the director and her staff in helping in operating the facility.
So you're comfortable with the composition.
So and if other people want, if Smyrna County wants, their piece, they can go to they can petition their state representatives and TVA to create their own energy company and deal with their own thing. And so
I want to continue this, but I've got to squeeze in a commercial break. We're going to pick it up right where we left off. You're watching Nashville in Focus. We'll be right back.
You're watching Fox 17 News, Nashville in Focus.
We're picking up right where we left off. It's such an important topic. It impacted 230,000 homes, not people, probably 500,000 people. Jasper, anything else I had to interrupt? Anything that you wanted to add before we?
Oh no, I just think that we need to do an extensive study, as to what happened to start immediately pointing the finger, at NES or anybody, immediately after. And now you're saying, oh, well, let's create a commission, let's create a board to take a look at it. But in the meantime, you're still saying this person needs to be fired. If the lineman, if we did have the lineman, do we know that a trail would have been cleared, for them to actually even do their work? Do we even know that could be one of the problems?
Some suggested the National Guard should have been deployed maybe immediately to clear the roads, and you lost power longer than any of us.
Yeah, the National Guard, the governor could have called it more quickly, and yet there were delays in Nashville because the mayor and the illegal alien activists were on record protesting putting the National Guard out because it would scare illegals, it would look like militarization. When they finally did it, they were clearing the roads, they were getting the linemen access. This was a failure on every level. You had before, you had during, and you had after, and the lack of communications by their PR team that they spent a lot of money on.
And the website issues.
And I hope that we not only have commissions and boards to study it, but that they take action, because so often you bury stuff in commissions after the fact.
But we need to look at it, and we need to take a thorough look at it. And one of the things that bothered me, one of the great things about Nashville, hopefully we can all agree, is that when these things hit, tornadoes, things like this, we all come together. and help each other. And that's what makes Nashville such a great place.
Bring the
is that-
chainsaw and
yeah, everybody
meet at the
starts
lawn.
helping each other. You're not waiting for something else to happen.
And we saw that in the tornadoes in East Nashville. People were over there
Right.
with their
So good.
chainsaws the next day.
But in this case, before we, people were starting to point
Yeah.
fingers before we
Yeah.
could even get all the power back on. And I start worrying about those people who are staying in their house with no heat, and they had gas stoves or whatever, and they're trying to survive. Let's get through this. Let's make sure everybody's safe before we start yelling at each
The other concern I
other.
have, and this doesn't apply to this particular board
Sure.
or even yours, too often, whether it's the University of Tennessee Board of Trustees or any other, the board members start to feel like they answer to the executives rather than vice versa. And I have a sense in this one that the board members did not have the expertise, that they were relying on whatever Teresa Alpin-Broyles told them. They gave too much deference to the executives and not enough to their own judgment. And
I know
that
what you're
happens with all
saying.
sorts
It's
of
like
boards.
you sometimes see these meetings and you're watching. It's like, I'm sorry, it looks like I'm working for you as opposed to you're
Right, yeah,
working for
you're
me.
right.
You know
Because
what
when
I'm
I first
saying?
joined, I got a lot of heat
Yeah.
for asking questions,
Yeah.
for demanding answers, But now we have an understanding,
Yeah.
And it's just like, because it's my role as a board member, is to ask these questions,
Well, the
for
board
people.
makes policy,
Right.
and the executive director, the CEO, whoever is, carries out that policy.
Leadership requires taking accountability, and the buck has to stop somewhere.
Yes,
There
it
are
does.
people that died. Let's not forget that. It's not just businesses lost money. It's not just people were inconvenienced. People actually died through this storm. And, when there's such a tremendous failure that we saw, someone needs to be held accountable. We don't need commissions, and we don't need people thinking about it and doing an after action report 6 months later. People want to see accountability, and they want to see it now. So you've got to start somewhere, and you've got to figure it out.
And they want an honest assessment, too. I hate to say that, but we are out of time. Thank you all for coming. Thank you all for watching, and we will have another show for you next week right here on Fox 17.